Boxing fans were shocked to learn that the eagerly awaited battle between Conor Benn and Tank Davis had been formally verified for November 2024, after months of conjecture and conversations that started to take shape sooner. The match this year is expected to be one of the year's major confrontations. Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn's manager, has been putting forth a lot of effort to get a fierce battle for his warrior, as Devin Davis seems to have different ideas. At first, it seems like both factions have now reached a agreement. Despite the appearance of this fight large, there are concerns over the capacity to supply numbers for pay-per-view Tank that just defeated Frank Martin in one of the most important battles of Boz. The exciting year for riding high Tank, both amazing knockout power and style, have made him a celebrity in his field, and his name alone ensures astronomical ticket sales. With enormous audience, yet despite his success, Davis never quite pleased with his income in particular. Considering how much money that a fight of this size might produce, they want a portion of them because they sense like it's probably a simple kind of conflict someplace. I don't have to worry about knocked out, but I can handle this man. You realize that's their prerogative, right? Regarding the Tank battle specifically, you mention an 8-figure salary, therefore, whoopee-doo Tank Davis can earn 8 of them, numbers against everyone he can very likely assemble 8 figures to oppose me or you. Sociological while talking about the negotiations. He will never be content, but the match may bring in a lot of pay-per-view revenue figures and ticket sales, considering that this is a high-stakes game. Davis is familiar with play and is not likely to absorb any less than the highest amount for his involvement. Davis, a fighter who has faced sellout PvP records being broken and arenas, will see where it goes from here. But I swear, Conor Benn will be in a tremendous. Eddie Hearn has been crucial in the battle next participant in bringing about this battle as of the most well-known advocates in the activity. Hearn is skilled at negotiating and organized the largest battles. He's been making a lot of effort to convince Benn to fight. He is due, and after months of talks, it seems like everything has become location. Hearn has been especially focused on reintegrating Benn into the ring after Benn's long absence, acted since his last fight. Hearn and Chris Van Han have been committed to finding him a well-known rival for his comeback as a judicial. A possible altercation with Chris Eubank Jr. On the table, it seemed too challenging to Eubank has been observing other battles and the discussions around that were requiring more time than Hearn was ready to hold out. Chris Eubank Jr. was a constant contender, nonetheless, it was just not coming together. Hearn clarified how we intended there's gone back and forth much too much, and Conor wants to fight, but he's not keen about it now, in holding out for many months as we make an attempt to engage with Eubank. With JR gone from the scene, Hearn shifted his focus on fighter Gervonta Davis, whose celebrity would propel Benn into wild. Hearn in the limelight knew it wouldn't be simple to instigate a fight, but he felt sure it would be worthwhile. The endeavor, one of the main concerns in the Washington money, was of course Devon in the discussions. Davis just got into a huge argument with where both fighters earned, in Ryan Garcia, enormous purses. Davis anticipates comparable funding for this battle, notwithstanding, not nearly as significant as the Garcia fight. Eddie Hearn is aware that if he desires to get Davis ready for this battle, must make a large financial offer. If Hearn wishes to engage in the Tank battle, he must give him a large sum of money, which may be more than the altercation will produce. Analysts said that Tank would want the same type of the money he received for the Garcia bout but the scale of this battle isn't as great, appealing to a broad audience, despite the financial difficulties. Hearn is self-assured, think the battle will yield significant results. This battle will produce enormous pay-per-view sales. Hearn said that Dant is aware of things, and we're ready to ensure that he receives his just desserts. In a recent, Davis said in the interview that he believes Benn to be a fine man and not a danger fighter. But Davis, he's not up to my level. Said, I fought the best and I won. This battle is simply another of the greatest stepping stone in my career. Nevertheless, Benn's father lacked a direct path to the concept of this combat. Nigel Benn's seeming indifference, Benn battling Devin and his son Conor. Davis lifted his eyebrows in the boxing globe as a self-contained tale. Nigel Benn's viewpoints are respected, and his remarks on Conor's next opponents show a circumspect yet astute manner when questioned of his son's future. Davis was conspicuously missing from the roster of possible opponents said by Elder Benn, which including such names as Mario Barros, Chris Liam Smith, and Eubank Jr. This omission prompted rumors as to whether Nigel was deliberately guiding Conor away. From the risk that Davis's tank faces stands for a combatant such as Conor, who has already shown his mettle in combat. His career may be defined by his next bout. Thus, it's not unexpected that his dad would play a significant role in these judgments at that time when Davis was declared as Conor's verified rival. Fans couldn't assist for November, but why did Nigel Benn seem doubtful of number one among the most important reasons for Nigel Benn's reluctance? Perhaps due to the disparity in weight. Conor Benn, one of the two boxers, has established himself as a one weight class in which he has shown speed, strength, and expertise Gervonta Davis on the vase, but has dedicated the most of his work to ruling the lightweight category, often engaging in combat with lesser opponents. While Davis has the ability to eliminate rival even while lifting heavier weights to take on a combatant who is inherently larger. Similar to how Conor Benn gives a completely distinct Nigel's challenge. The potential worry raised about the tank's capacity to Davis indeed has that big difference. Tremendous knockout force, yet battling a bigger, more powerful opponent than Conor introduces fresh factors that Nigel has battled and prevailed in many categories. Presumably knows the difficulties that accompany such matches. His fatigue may have its origins given that this battle carries enormous danger for both males, but particularly for his kid despite the disparity in weight. Another is the clash of fighting styles. Worry that may have gotten to Nigel Benn's Davis is renowned for his mental, powerful knockout force and his aptitude to swiftly reduce the space between his more. The ability to counterpunch is one of the top in the sport, and he often awaits his rivals to commit an error earlier, using it to their advantage with disastrous outcomes in the interim. Conor Benn is a combative combatant with a penchant for pressure, the activity and force his desires onto his adversaries. His forward-moving technique has produced several stoppage wins, but versus a lethal counterpuncher such as Davis, it could have two sides. Nigel Benn probably understood that Conor's combative manner might be useful. Straight into Davis's advantages, which could be the reason he hesitated to support the battle. And even though Conor is clearly a gifted and formidable boxer competing, Gervonta Davis needs a certain kind of alertness, planning, and defense. Nigel, who has seen several bouts over his career, anticipating a purse that resembled his obtained during his battle with Ryan Garcia, is a well-known figure. And he recognizes it and is aware that he has a hypothetical follow-up match between Garcia and Horizon, indicating that he is not going to tolerate anything that isn't as good as his worth, in my opinion, that a conflict is started. I agree to continue fighting, do you? You are aware that I am not your concern. Should 10 mil Conor Benn, son of 13 mil, legendary British boxer Nigel Benn is equally committed to building a reputation for himself with a noteworthy track record. Benn has been moving up the hierarchy of the welterweight class, distinguished by his hostile demeanor and relentless pressure. Benn has drawn the interest of boxing fans everywhere, and they're fighting now with Gervonta Davis approaching. He has the potential to become well-known return in a straight line to the location where I am part of it. You are aware of that. I have not disappeared. I have remained here. Thus, you are aware of me without a doubt. Like I already said, anyone's top five persuaded that, well, you already know. Concerns causing these battles to occur. But for Benn, this isn't simply a fight. Payday is a claim he has made. Following major bouts for the last couple years later, having the opportunity to meet one of the most well-known figures in the sport, he's prepared to prove his legitimacy to the world. Benn had additional experiences with the elite. Alternatives for battles with possible confrontations with Mario Chris Eubank Jr., Barros, Manny Pacquiao included, being spoken about, but none of those names weighed the same as Gervonta Davis. You have to be on my hit list. Eubank, Barros, Haney, Eddie Hearn has been outspoken in any world. On Benn's intention to battle someone of Conor is eager to see Davis's level of lockdown his next battle, as quickly as Hearn may have said, "We're talking in." Is aware of the risks involved with dealing with a combatant such as Davis. An additional explanation Nigel Benn could voice doubt is his want to shield his son's future professional path. Conor Benn, who is growing, has a perfect record and plenty of energy losing, particularly to Gervonta Davis. Could ruin that if it's a knockout momentum and reverse years of arduous labor. Nigel Benn is all too familiar with the significance of developing a career. With caution and intelligent planning, he probably desires for Conor to take against opponents who will both put him to the test and raise his, without placing him in an unwarranted. Nigel emphasized risk throughout the interview, like as Chris Eubank and Mario Barros Jr., who are both dangerous rivals, but maybe not as dangerous as Gervonta Davis. In this phase of Conor's professional journey, Undoubtedly, Eubank Jr. would be a prominent battle. It's a more recognizable region that Conor will remain in domain of British boxing competition. Devon, conversely, Davis is a representative of a worldwide superstar with a huge after that, making it a lot more hazardous and maybe career-defining battle. After which, we may claim that Devon Davis's standing as a remarkable artist might have contributed to Nigel's unwillingness. Davis has an air of invincibility enveloping him with eliminated the majority of his opponents with relative simplicity, with which he may finish a conflict. Using only one blow, he becomes one of the fighters in the sport nowadays who are most dreaded, as Nigel Benn, a parent, prioritizes shield his kid and the possibility of Conor entering the ring holding. Someone with Tank's level of risk may obviously cause unease for any parenting. In the interview, Nigel highlighted his conviction that Conor was prepared for combat with Smith or Eubank but said nothing. Davis's implication that he may not believe Conor is prepared for a problem of that size, however, as the altercation between Conor and Jant has been verified, it is evident that Conor Benn has faith in his skills and prepared to face the most challenging obstacles in the sport, regardless of issue. Notwithstanding Nigel's fears, his father Ben's early doubts, Conor Benn will now go up against Gervonta Davis in November, what seems to be among the finest expected bouts of the year. But Nigel could have been worried, but it's evident that Conor is committed to establish his mark and demonstrate his abilities rival the greatest. Gervonta Davis has agreed to engage in combat with Conor Benn him next. But if this battle will really occur is the central question on Niger. In the thoughts of all fans, it's nearly difficult to accept that Davis, who has been very picky about the people he chooses, adversaries might decide to battle the unconquered but not well-known British combatant Conor Benn, the declaration of love. This possible conflict has sparked a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration in the boxing community, particularly when thinking about how this battle will look. Well, especially by Americans. Viewers, the first obstacle that this can spawn, the challenge it faces is marketability. As Devon Davis, with his flawless 29-0 history and formidable knockout ability, is quite popular in the U.S. Conor Benn is a distinct tale. Benn, in spite of his unbroken run of 230, hasn't been thoroughly tested yet. And strange to American boxing enthusiasts, this brings up a serious issue. Can the Benn versus Davis bout sells well enough to justification for both fighters' high salaries are anticipating a pay-per-view match? For it to be effective, it must attract a big audience, particularly in the United States that continue to be among the largest global. The boxing tank industry has evolved into a PPV celebrity, especially after his enormous battle with Ryan Garcia before. But Benn Conor is not on the same level. In actuality, Benn's exposure in the United States. Most recent bouts have taken place in the UK. Even against less well-known rivals, his absence of a strong following in the US might making it hard to market this battle on American territory. In addition to the idea that Conor Benn, an inexperienced combatant, may strive to undermine the promotion's unconquered record is amazing. But it doesn't the same significance as a few of Davis's previous adversaries. The American public may not agree that Benn is a good test for Davis that could influence their inclination to accept the battle during the conflict. May try to. There's always the option to sell in the U.S. Potential for the Saudis to intervene. Saudi Arabia has invested to make it happen. Grow to be a significant force in the realm of boxing, giving enormous financial rewards to host well-known bouts if they worth of a Davis versus Benn showdown. Saudis could easily finance the battle, making sure the rewards reach both fighters. As of late, they have a desire for Saudi Arabia, has been host to many blockbuster boxing activities, and their participation would undoubtedly lessen some of the concerns about the fight's financial implications. But even if the Saudis display regarding money, there's still the issue of whether this battle will result in the boxing enthusiasts' imaginations. Although Davis is a well-known figure throughout Wedge, the unfamiliarity with Benn may minimize the fanfare surrounding the game, especially when contrasted with other possible disputes concerning Davis, such those that with Shakur or Devin Haney. Stevenson, notwithstanding the uncertainty around Mon Davis's battle, seems to be more than prepared to enter the ring with of. When questioned about the social media debate, Ben Davis, the media answered with assurance, affirming, "Yes, but where would you?" Such as your rear end whooping at his brother Ben's contemptuous tone implies that Davis does not consider the British combatant as a grave danger. Davis's perspective represents the prevailing opinion in the boxing scene that Benn, in his unbeaten state, cannot be compared to the Baltimore. The fact that Davis is still a star that the task demonstrates his ready to face any challenger after his triumph over Ryan Garcia. Davis has attained a stage in his profession where he's searching for well-known rivals to Benn to cement his legacy, but not as prominent as some other fighters still poses a fresh obstacle for Davis, particularly considering the size distinction between the two. Albeit Davis's assurance that he can manage Benn is clear from his public remarks, in which he's basically dismissing Benn's challenge as insignificant, more than a little annoyance, never one to back down from a fight. Conor Benn didn't take long to respond to. Benn answered Davis on social media by referring to Davis as a munchkin-beating lady from Oz, requiring his promoter to Eddie Hearn orchestrates Benn's bout. The reply was brash and combative, suiting his image of a fierce and self-assured combatant, yet some might contend that his answer reveals a certain degree of unease, particularly after his lackluster performance, in the most recent battle in opposition to Peter Dobson. Benn found it difficult to move over the fight. In the end, Dobson prevailed via unanimous choice, but not before demonstrating some weaknesses. Dobson, while not an elite opponent, managed to land many photos of Benn that show him looking unpleasant at times for a lot of boxers. Analysts concluded that Benn is seeking this battle, still doing business domestically, far from becoming an elite combatant. This makes one wonder whether Benn is really ready, confronting someone like as Gervonta Davis. The most important question that still has to be answered is whether this battle will really take place on paper. It seems to be a dangerous idea, for Benn is being fought by both Davis fighters. Gives little information on legacy or financial benefit, particularly if the battle doesn't elicit a lot of curiosity. For Benn entering the ring in the US, having an individual as perilous as Devin Davis can have severe consequences for his unbeaten record, particularly considering his current results in comparison to boxing. With Dobson is a sport in which anything is possible, especially if evolved. When money is involved, a powerful likelihood that this battle will need. Benn's promoter Eddie Hearn has a reputation for inciting major altercations, and if he is able to make a deal with the palace, the squad led by Davis may be in actuality the Saudis' profound dod. Additionally, pockets could be quite important in bringing this battle to pass, as they've completed other significant boxing matches in recent years. But if it occurs, how should you believe it will go over your ideas below, and remember to like and scene. For more, watch the channel and subscribe.